Introduction to Ecclesiastes. No time period or writer's name is mentioned in the book, but several passages suggest that King Solomon may be the author. On the other hand, the writer's title, teacher, Hebrew Kohelet, see note on 1:1. His unique style of Hebrew and his attitude toward rulers suggesting that of a subject rather than a monarch may point to another person and a later period. Purpose and teaching. The author of Ecclesiastes puts his powers of wisdom to work to examine the human experience and assess the human situation. His perspective is limited to what happens under the sun, as is that of all the wisdom teachers. He considers life as he has experienced and observes it between the horizons of birth and death. Life within the boundaries of this visible world, his wisdom cannot penetrate beyond that last horizon. He can only observe the phenomenon of death and perceive the limits it places on human beings. Within the limits of human experience and observation, he is concerned to spell out what is good for people to do. And he represents a devout wisdom. Life in the world is under God for all its enigmas. Hence, what begins with meaningless, ends with remember your Creator, and fear God and keep His commandments. With a wisdom matured by many years, he takes the measure of human beings, examining their limits and their lot. He has attempted to see what human wisdom can do, and he has discovered that human wisdom, even when it has its beginning in the fear of the Lord, has limits to its powers. When it attempts to go it alone, limits that circumscribe its perspectives and relative its counsel. Most significantly, it cannot find out the larger purposes of God or the ultimate meaning of human existence. With respect to these, it can only pose questions. Nevertheless, he does take a hard look at the human enterprise, an enterprise in which he himself has fully participated. He sees a busy human anthill in mad pursuit of many things, trying now this, now that, laboring away as if by dint of effort humans could master the world, lay bare its deepest secrets, change its fundamental structures, somehow burst through the bounds of human limitations. Build for themselves enduring monuments, control their destiny, achieve a state of secure and lasting happiness, people laboring at life with an overblown conception of human powers, and consequently pursuing unrealistic hopes and aspirations. He takes a hard look and concludes that human life is in this mode, is meaningless, its efforts all futile. What then does wisdom teach him? Humans cannot, by all their striving, achieve anything of ultimate or enduring significance. Nothing appears to be going anywhere, and people cannot, by all their efforts, break out of this caged treadmill. And they cannot fundamentally change anything. Hence they often toil foolishly. All their striving under the sun after unreal goals lends only to disillusionment. Wisdom is better than folly. It is God's gift to those who please Him, but it is unwarranted to expect too much even from such wisdom, to expect that human wisdom is capable of solving all problems. or of securing for itself enduring rewards or advantages. Experience confronts humans with many apparent disharmonies and anomalies that wisdom cannot unravel. Of these, greatest of all is this: human life comes to the same end as that of animals, death. Although God made humankind upright, people have gone in search of many schemes for getting ahead by taking advantage of others. So even humans are a disappointment. People cannot know or control what will come after them, even what lies in more immediate future. Therefore, all their efforts remain balanced on the razor's edge of uncertainty. God keeps humans in their place. God has ordered all things, and a human being cannot change God's appointments or fully understand them or anticipate them. But the world is not fundamentally chaotic or irrational. It is ordered by God, and it is for humans to accept matters as they are, by God's appointments, including their own limitations. Everything has its time and is good in its time. Therefore, wisdom counsels accept the human state as it is shaped by God's appointments, and enjoy life, the life you have been given, as fully as you can. Do not trouble yourself with unrealistic goals. Know the measure of human capabilities. Be prudent in all your ways. Follow wisdom's leading. Fear God and keep his commandments, beginning already in your youth, before the fleeting days of life's enjoyments are gone, and the days of trouble come, when the infirmities of advanced days of life enjoyments are gone, and the days of trouble come when the infirmities of advanced age vex you, and hinder you from tasting, seeing, and feeling the good things of life. To sum up, Ecclesiastes provides instruction on how to live meaningfully, purposefully, and joyfully within the theocratic arrangement, primarily by placing God at the center of one's life, work, and activities, by contentedly accepting one's divinely appointed lot in life, and by reverently trusting in and obeying the Creator - King. See also pertinent notes on these passages. Literary features. The argument of Ecclesiastes does not flow smoothly. It meanders with jumps and starts throughout the general messiness of the human experience, to which it is a response. There is also intermingling of poetry and prose. Nevertheless, the following outline seeks to reflect, at least in a general way, the structure of the book and its main discourses. The announced theme of meaninglessness, futility, provides a literary frame around the whole, and the movement from the unrelieved disillusionment of chapters 1 through 2 to the more serene tone and sober instructions for life in chapters 11 through 12 marks a development in matured wisdom's coming to terms with the human situation. A striking feature of the book is its frequent use of the key words and phrases. Meaningless, see notes on 1:2-24 through 25. Work, labor, toil, see note on 2:10. Good, better, see note 2:1. Gift, give, see note on 5:19. Under the sun, see note on 1:3. Chasing after the wind, see note on 1:14. Also to be noted is the presence of passages interwoven throughout the book that serve as key indicators of the author's theme and purpose. The enjoyment of life as God gives it is a key concept in the book. Outline: 1. Author. 2. Theme: the meaninglessness of human efforts on earth apart from God. 3. Introduction: the profitlessness of human toil to accumulate things in order to achieve happiness. Everything is meaningless. The words of the teacher, son of David, king in Jerusalem. Meaningless, meaningless, says the teacher. Utterly meaningless. Everything is meaningless. What does man gain from all his labor at which he toils under the sun? Generations come and generations go, but the earth remains forever. The sun rises and the sun sets and hurries back to where it rises. The wind blows to the south and turns to the north. Round and round it goes. Ever returning on its course, all streams flow into the sea. Yet the sea is never full. To the place the streams come from, there they return again. All things are wearisome. More than one can say, the eye never has enough of seeing, nor the ear its fill of hearing. What has been will be again. What has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun. Is there anything of which one can say, look, this is something new? It was here already long ago. It was here before our time. There is no remembrance of men of old, and even those who are yet to come will not be remembered by those who follow. Wisdom is meaningless. I, the teacher, was king over Israel in Jerusalem. I devoted myself to study, to explore by wisdom all that is done under heaven. What a heavy burden God has laid on men. I have seen all the things that are done under the sun. All of them are meaningless, a chasing after the wind. What is twisted cannot be straightened. What is lacking cannot be counted. I thought to myself, look, I have grown and increased in wisdom more than anyone who has ruled over Jerusalem before me. I have experienced much of wisdom and knowledge. Then I applied myself to the understanding of wisdom and also of madness and folly. But I learned that this too is a chasing after the wind. For with much wisdom comes much sorrow. The more knowledge, the more grief. Pleasures are meaningless. I thought in my heart, come now, I will test you with pleasure, to find out what is good. But that also proved to be meaningless. Laughter, I said, is foolish. And what does pleasure accomplish? I tried cheering myself with wine and embracing folly. My mind still guiding me with wisdom, I wanted to see what was worthwhile for men to do under heaven during the few days of their lives. I undertook great projects. I built houses for myself and planted vineyards. I made gardens and parks and planted all kinds of fruit trees in them. I made reservoirs to water groves of flourishing trees. I bought male and female slaves and had other slaves who were board in my house. I also owned more herds and flocks than anyone in Jerusalem before me. I amassed silver and gold for myself and the treasure of kings and provinces. I acquired men and women singers in a harem as well, the delights of the heart of man. I became greater by far than anyone in Jerusalem before me. In all this, my wisdom stayed with me. I denied myself nothing and my eyes desired. I refused my heart no pleasure. My heart took delight in all my work, and this was the reward for all my labor. Yet when I surveyed all that my hands had done, and what I had toiled to achieve, everything was meaningless, a chasing after the wind. Nothing was gained under the sun. Wisdom and folly are meaningless. Then I turned my thoughts to consider wisdom, and also madness and folly. What more can the king's successor do than what has already been done? I saw that wisdom is better than folly, just as light is better than darkness. The wise man has eyes in his head, while the fool walks in darkness. But I came to realize that the same fate overtakes them both. Then I thought in my heart, the fate of the fool will overtake me also. What then do I gain by being wise? I said in my heart, this too is meaningless. For the wise man, like the fool, will not be long remembered. In days to come, both will be forgotten. Like the fool, the wise man too must die. Toil is meaningless, so I hated life because the work that is done under the sun was grievous to me. All of it is meaningless, a chasing after the wind. I hated all the things I had toiled for under the sun, because I must leave them to the one who comes after me, and who knows whether he will be a wise man or a fool, yet he will have control over the work into which I have poured my effort and skill under the sun. This too is meaningless, so my heart began to despair over all my toilsome labor under the sun, for a man may do his work with wisdom, knowledge, and skill, and then he must leave all he owns to someone who has not worked a day for it. This too is meaningless and a great misfortune. What does a man get for all the toil and anxious striving with which he labors under the sun? All his days, his work is pain and grief. Even at night, his mind does not rest. This too is meaningless. A man can do nothing better than to eat and drink, and find satisfaction in his work. This too I see is from the hand of God, for without him who can eat or find enjoyment? To the man who pleases him, God gives wisdom, knowledge, and happiness. But to the sinner he gives the task of gathering and storing up wealth, to hand it over to the one who pleases God. This too is meaningless, a chasing after the wind. A time for everything. There is a time for everything and a season for every activity under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to uproot. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to tear down and a time to build. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to scatter stones and a time to gather them. A time to embrace and a time to refrain. A time to search and a time to give up. A time to keep and a time to throw away. A time to tear and a time to mend. A time to be silent and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time for war and a time for peace. What does the worker gain from his toil? I have seen the burden God has laid on men. He has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the hearts of men, yet they cannot fathom what God has done from beginning to end. I know that there is nothing better for men than to be happy and to do good while they live, that everyone may eat and drink and find satisfaction in all his toil. This is the gift of God. I know that everything God does will endure forever. Nothing can be added to it and nothing taken from it. God does it so that men will revere him. Whatever is has already been, and what will be has been before, and God will call the past to account. And I saw something else under the sun. In the place of judgment, wickedness was there. In the place of justice, wickedness was there. I thought in my heart, God will bring to judgment both the righteous and the wicked. For there will be a time for every activity, a time for every deed. I also thought, as for men, God tests them so that they may see that they are like the animals. Man's fate is like that of the animals. The same fate awaits them both. As one dies, so dies the other. All have the same breath. Man has no advantage over the animal. Everything is meaningless. All go to the same place. All come from dust, and to dust all return. Who knows if the spirit of man rises upward, and if the spirit of the animal goes down into the earth? So I saw that there is nothing better for a man to enjoy his work, because that is his lot. For who can bring him to see what will happen after him? Oppression, toil, and friendlessness. Again, I looked and saw all the oppression that was taking place under the sun. I saw the tears of the oppressed, and they had no comforter. Power was on the side of their oppressors, and they have no comforter. And I declared that the dead who had already died are happier than the living, who are still alive, both but better than both. Is he who has not yet been, who has not seen the evil that is done under the sun. And I saw that all labor and all achievement spring from man's envy of his neighbor. This too is meaningless, a chasing after the wind. The fool folds his hands and ruins himself. Better one handful with tranquility than 2 handfuls with toil and chasing after the wind. Again, I saw something meaningless under the sun. There was a man all alone. He had neither son nor brother. There was no end to his toil, yet his eyes were not content with his wealth. For whom I am toiling, he asked, and why am I depriving myself of enjoyment? This too is meaningless, a miserable business. 2 are better than 1 because they have a good return for their work. If one falls down, his friend can help him up, but pity the man who falls and has no one to help him up. If one falls down, his friend can help him up, but pity the man who falls and has no one to help him up. Also, if 2 lie down together, they will keep warm. But how can one keep warm alone? Though one may be overpowered, 2 can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. Advancement is meaningless. Better a poor but wise youth than an old but foolish king who no longer knows how to take warning. The youth may have come from prison to the kingship, or he may have been born in poverty within his kingdom. I saw that all who lived and walked under the sun followed the youth, the king's successor. There was no end to all the people who were before them. But those who came later were not pleased with the successor. This too is meaningless, a chasing after the wind. Stand in awe of God. Guard your steps. When you go to the house of God, go near to listen rather than to offer the sacrifice of fools, who do not know what they do wrong. Do not be quick with your mouth. Do not be hasty in your heart. It is to utter anything before God. God is in heaven and you are on earth. So let your words be few. As a dream comes when there are many cares, so the speech of a fool when there are many words. When you make a vow to God, do not delay in fulfilling it. He has no pleasure in fools. Fulfill your vow. It is better not to vow than to make a vow and not fulfill it. When you make a vow to God, do not delay in fulfilling it. He has no pleasure in fools. Fulfill your vow. It is still better not to vow than to make a vow and not fulfill it. Do not let your mouth lead you into sin, and do not protest to the temple messenger. My vow was a mistake. Why should God be angry at what you say and destroy the work of your hands? Much dreaming and many words are meaningless. Therefore stand in awe of God. Riches are meaningless. If you see the poor oppressed in a district and justice and rights denied, do not be surprised at such things. For one official is eyed by a higher one, and over them both are others higher still. The increase from the land is taken by all. The king himself profits from the fields. Whoever loves money never has money enough. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with his income. This too is meaningless. As goods increase, so do those who consume them. And what benefit are they to the owner, except to feast his eyes on them? The sleep of a laborer is sweet, whether he eats little or much, but the abundance of a rich man permits him no sleep. I have seen a grievous evil under the sun, wealth hoarded to the harm of its owner, or wealth lost through some misfortune, so that when he has a son, there is nothing left for him. I have seen a grievous evil under the sun, wealth hoarded to the harm of its owner, or wealth lost through some misfortune, so that when he has a son, there is nothing left for him. Naked a man comes from his mother's womb, and as he comes, so he departs. He takes nothing from his labor that he can carry in his hand. This too is a grievous evil. As a man comes, so he departs. And what does he gain, since he toils for the wind? All his days he eats in darkness, with great frustration, affliction, and anger. Then I realize that it is good and proper for a man to eat and drink, and to find satisfaction in his toilsome labor. Under the sun, during the few days of life God has given him, for this is his lot. Moreover, when God gives any man wealth and possessions, and enables him to enjoy it, to accept his lot, and to be happy in his work, this is a gift of God. He seldom reflects on the days of his life, because God keeps him occupied with gladness of heart. I have seen another evil under the sun, and it weighs heavily on men. God gives a man wealth, possessions, and honor, so that he lacks nothing his heart desires, but God not enable him to enjoy them, and a stranger enjoys them instead. This is meaningless, a grievous evil. A man may have 100 children and live many years, yet no matter how long he lives, he cannot enjoy his prosperity and does not receive proper burial. I say that a stillborn child is better off than he. It comes without meaning, it departs in darkness, and in darkness its name is shrouded. Through it, though it never saw the sun or knew anything, it has more rest than does that man, even if he lives 1,000 years twice over, but fails to enjoy his prosperity. Do not all go to the same place. All man's efforts are for his mouth, yet his appetite is never satisfied. What advantage has a wise man over a fool? What does a poor man gain by knowing how to conduct himself before others? Better what the eye sees than the roving of the appetite. This too is meaningless, a chasing after the wind. Whatever exists has already been named, and what man has been known, no man can contend. With one who is stronger than he, the more the words and the less the meaning. And how does that profit anyone? For who knows what is good for a man in life during the few and meaningless days he passes through like a shadow? Who can tell him what will happen under the sun after he is gone? Wisdom. A good name is better than fine perfume, and the day of death better than the day of birth. It is better to go to a house of mourning than go to a house of feasting, for death is the destiny of every man. The living should take this to heart. Sorrow is better than laughter, because a sad face is good for the heart. The heart of the wise is in the house of mourning, but the heart of fools is in the house of pleasure. It is better to heed a wise man's rebuke than to listen to the song of fools. Like the crackling of thorns under the pot, so is the laughter of fools. This too is meaningless. Extortion turns a wise man into a fool, and a bribe corrupts the heart. The end of a matter is better than its beginning, and patience is better than pride. Do not be quickly provoked in your spirit, for anger resides in the lap of fools. Do not say, "Why were the old days better than these?" For it is not wise to ask such questions. Wisdom, like an inheritance, is a good thing, and benefits those who see the sun. Wisdom is a shelter, as money is a shelter. But the advantage of knowledge is this, that wisdom preserves the life of its possessor. Consider what God has done. Who can straighten what he has made crooked? When times are good, be happy, but when times are bad, consider. God has made the one as well as the other, therefore a man cannot discover anything about his future. In this meaningless life of mine, I have seen both of these, a righteous man perishing in his righteousness, and a wicked man living long in his wickedness. Do not be over righteous, neither be over wise. Why destroy yourself? Do not be over wicked, and do not be a fool. Why die before your time? It is good to grasp the one and not let go of the other. The man who fears God will avoid all extremes. Wisdom makes one wise man more powerful than 10 rulers in a city. There is not a righteous man on earth who does what is right and never sins. Do not pay attention to every word people say, or you may hear your servant cursing you. For you know in your heart that many times you yourself have cursed others. All this I tested by wisdom, and I said, I am determined to be wise, but this was beyond me. Whatever wisdom may be, it is far off and most profound. Who can discover it? So I turned my mind to understand, to investigate, and to search out wisdom and the scheme of things, and to understand the stupidity of wickedness and the madness of folly. I find more bitter than death the woman who is a snare, whose heart is a trap, and whose hands are chains. The man who pleases God will escape her, but the sinner she will ensnare. Look, says the teacher, this is what I have discovered. Adding one thing to another to discover the scheme of things while I was still searching, but not finding. I found one upright man among 1,000, but not one upright woman among them all. This only have I found: God made mankind upright, but men have gone in search of many schemes. Who is like the wise man who knows the explanation of things? Wisdom brightens a man's face and changes its hard appearance. Obey the king. Obey the king's command, I say, because you took an oath before God. Do not be in a hurry to leave the king's presence. Do not stand up for a bad cause, for he will do whatever he pleases. Since the king's word is supreme, who can say to him, what are you doing? Whoever obeys his command will come to no harm, and the wise heart will know the proper time and procedure, for there is a proper time and procedure for every matter. Though a man's misery weighs heavily upon him, since no man knows the future, who can tell him what is to come? No man has power over the wind to contain it, so no one has power over the day of his death. As no one is discharged in the time of war, so wickedness will not release those who practice it. All this I saw, as I applied my mind to everything done under the sun. There is a time when a man lords it over to others, to his own hurt. Then too I saw the wicked buried, those who used to come and go from the holy place and receive praise. In the city where they did this too is meaningless. When the sentence for a crime is not quickly carried out, the hearts of the people are filled with schemes to do wrong. Although a wicked man commits 100 crimes and still lives a long time, I know that it will go better with God-fearing men, who are reverent before God. Yet because the wicked do not fear God, it will not go well with them, and their days will not lengthen like a shadow. There is something else meaningless that occurs on earth. Righteous men who get what the wicked deserve, and wicked men who get what the righteous deserve. This too, I say, is meaningless, so I commend the enjoyment of life, because nothing is better for a man under the sun to eat and drink and be glad. Then joy will accompany him in his work in the days of the life God has given him under the sun. When I applied my mind to know wisdom and to observe man's labor on earth, his eyes not seeing sleep day or night, then I saw that all God has done. No one can comprehend what goes on under the sun, despite all his efforts to search it out. Every man cannot discover its meaning. Even if a wise man claims he knows, he cannot really comprehend it. A common destiny for all. So I reflected on all this and concluded that the righteousness and the wise, what they do, are in God's hands. But no man knows whether love or hate awaits him. All share a common destiny, the righteous and the wicked, the good and the bad, the clean and the unclean, those who offer sacrifices and those who do not. As it is with the good man, so with the sinner. As it is with those who take oaths, so with those who are afraid to take them. This is the evil in everything that happens under the sun. The same destiny overtakes all. The hearts of men, moreover, are full of evil, and there is madness in their hearts while they live. And afterward they join the dead. Anyone who is among the living has hope.